Bablerith's Tears. Bablerith is the demon who seals all pacts between devils and humans. His evil contracts sends ill-fortuned men and women, one after the other, into hell. One time, Bablerith fell in love with a human woman. This woman's father was very sick, and she appealed to the demons to save her father. But Bablerith knew that with a contract, she would be thrown into hell and lost to him forever. He thought, and at last decided that he himself would go to hell in her place. But when he hurried to the girl's home, he found the father dead. The girl's lifeless body lay beside him, as if in sleep. Ignorant of death, the demon tried to shake her awake, over and over again. Battlelust. The leader of warriors seeks out their death. Deep in his heart fall the tears of heaven. The lakes of blood glimmer like beacons in the dark. The lesson steals life and blesses it anew. Broken Dogma. There was once a great sect that boasted 246 shrines and centuries of devotion to the Holy Way. The continuation of the sect's sacred truth was entrusted to the great hierarch, 57th in the line. The hierarch was a grave and frankly honest leader. Upstanding as a child of the gods, he was a good and holy man. But, at times, his honesty made him weak to the pressures of the secular world. One day, the ruler of the kingdom and protector of the sect asked the holy leader, "Who is the more just, the gods or I?" The hierarch answered that the gods were, and the king became enraged. The king decreed the sect a heresy, and in one stroke, the proud, centuries-old religion was snuffed out. The hierarch, seeing his entreaties fall on deaf ears, plunged this trident into his breast. Knight's Vow. A long time ago, there was a dragon who could not fly. This gruff yet noble-hearted dragon had never seen a human until the day he came across a gravely injured knight. The dragon tended to the knight, but when the human opened his eyes, he stared in fright and tried to flee. In those days, wingless dragons were despised by men as ill omens. But the knight recovered, and vowed as he returned home to repay the dragon. Many years passed. One day, the aged dragon found himself surrounded by an army of men, and he prepared himself for death. "My wingless friend, it has been a long time." Striding from behind the soldiers came the knight of old, now a king with an army of thousands. The dragon let out a roar of delight. Mermaid's Feast. This monk's spade belonged to an ugly mermaid who lived on a solitary island in the South Ocean. With her fearsome songs, she would lure the islanders out to sea and feast upon their raw livers. One day, a young man came to the island seeking revenge on the mermaid for the slaying of his family. The man sliced off the mermaid's tail, leaving her on the brink of death. Unable to swim, the mermaid despaired. Seeking forgiveness, she gave to the youth her beloved weapon and begged for the return of her tail in exchange. But the youth knew that she would return to her wicked ways of terrorizing the islanders for the livers that gave her sustenance. With one thrust of her own spear, the pitiful creature was slain. Ozymandias Might. This monk's spade was owned by the ruler of the greatest empire of the age. Said to control lightning and slice through blackness, it was dedicated as a guardian weapon in the shrine of the gods. A warrior famed for his courage plundered the weapon and set out to conquer the world. Summoning lightning and thunder to his aid, he brought nation after nation into his empire. He sat at the center of a vast empire, but the vassal states chafed under his rule and rose up against him. In the end, betrayed even by his own army, the warrior's empire collapsed. He took refuge in a small castle. As the besieging army put the castle to the torch, he held the monk's spade at his side and, together with his favorite concubine, waited for death. Robber King. In the kingdom of the Union, a general beloved by the common people slew the wicked queen that had taken power when the king had died. The general came from the lowest classes, making a living as a murderer and highwayman. After killing his 15th victim, he was at last captured by the authorities. Judgment was swift. The sentence was death. But the general had a great advantage. He was an extraordinarily handsome man. When the queen saw him, she could not bear to have him killed. She gave the general all her love, but her love turned to obsession. She became his prisoner, and he took her throne. People who knew him came to call him Robber King. Stormgiver. There once was a nest of vampires that lived in an old castle deep in the forest. Each night, the vampires would creep out their lair and terrorize the helpless farmers of the nearby village. Hearing of the villagers' plight, a renowned vampire slayer came to the village, but he told the villagers that he could not battle an entire nest of vampires alone. Some young men of the village volunteered to help, and together they prepared 4 spears set with powerful crystals. That night, the vampires came shrieking from their lair and attacked the village as one. The battle raged all night long, but when morning broke, all that remained of the vampires was grey ash. Ever since, the villagers have worshipped the spears as guardian spirits. Victor's Spoils. There was once a country founded by 2 brothers, masters of martial arts. One brother fought with strength, the other with speed. Great friends, they ruled their country in peace. One day, a small girl asked the 2 brothers an innocent question.
They say that the 2 of you have never fought, but if you were to have a fight, which one of you could win?
Both answered that he himself would be the victor. Thereupon, the brothers began to argue. An argument that grew more and more heated until they found themselves in a fight to the death. Seeing the brothers battle, the angry gods hurled down this mighty spear and impaled them both. Awed by the gods' wrath, the people of the country enshrined the spear in their temple. Wolf's Plague. There was once a small village that made its livelihood from rearing cattle. But it was terrorized by a pack of wolves that slaughtered the villagers' livestock each and every night. Desperately, the villagers tried to protect their herds, but they were defenseless against the wily white wolf that led the pack. Each night, more livestock was lost. As the situation grew more grave, some began to talk of abandoning their homes. At that, the quietest villager of all took up his spear and stepped out into the night. 2 days later, the white wolf was found dead in the woods, impaled by the spear. The villagers raised the weapon over the village gate in hope that one day it might greet the Silent One's return.